hello and welcome to tonight's edition of the Daily Debate. I'm your host for tonight, Muhammad Abdurrahim, and tonight we'll be talking Gaza and the just Palestinian cause. And with us here in the studio is Dr Asmaa zieny, and Professor zieny is a senior fellow at the Global Peace Institute in the UK. Dr Asmaa, always a pleasure to have you with us. We'll be talking the just Palestinian cause, especially Gaza and the Egyptian role, and enough to say that Egypt, on the very first day when the Americans and the Iranians reached their the deal to negotiate for 60 days at least to try and reach a comprehensive deal, a presidential statement came out from Cairo saying that now is the time to go back and look at the just Palestinian cause and look at Gaza, which had been forgotten a little bit during that American-Israeli-Iranian war. We'll be talking that and talking about the Egyptian role, Dr. Asmaa, dear viewers. But first, the top stories of this Thursday. Now, His Excellency the President received the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, Borham Saleh, on Thursday. During the meeting, the President reiterated Egypt's commitment to providing refugees with essential services within its capabilities while ensuring respect for its laws and international obligations. President Sisi affirmed Egypt's pride in its ongoing cooperation with the UNHCR in providing international protection to refugees and asylum seekers residing in Egypt and managing the asylum process in accordance with the relevant national law. The head of state emphasized Egypt's readiness to continue this cooperation in a way that strengthens international solidarity and supports refugees. The President reviewed Egypt's efforts in hosting some 10.5 million foreigners, migrants and refugees of different nationalities in the wake of numerous international and regional crises. The President called for adopting a comprehensive approach to addressing the phenomenon of asylum and displacement, including political security crises and economic challenges. Thereby, the President stressed on the importance of achieving sustainable development and promoting peace and stability in the countries of the region. Also on Thursday, Minister of Foreign Affairs Badr Abdulati stressed that international efforts should be focused on the Palestinian cause, paving the way for the implementation of U.S. President Donald Trump's peace plan for Gaza. During his meeting with the European Union's Middle East Special Envoy, Christophe Bigot, the top diplomat reiterated that Gaza's plan is essential to ensure the unhindered aid flow to Palestinians, the launch of post-war reconstruction in the devastated territory, and the empowerment of a national Palestinian committee to rule the enclave and the deployment of the agreed-upon international stabilization force in the area. The meeting also touched on the concerning developments in the West Bank, with Minister Abdulati reiterating Egypt's rejection of the illegal Israeli expansionist moves and settler attacks, as well as restrictions and break-ins around in a bid to change the historic and legal status quo in the occupied Palestinian territories. And Egypt on Thursday expressed its sincere condolences and deepest sympathy to the Republic of Venezuela for the victims of the 2 earthquakes that struck the country, resulting in a large number of casualties and injuries. Egypt affirmed its full solidarity with the government and people of Venezuela in this painful ordeal. It further extended its heartfelt condolences to the families of the victims, wishing them a speedy recovery. Condolences. And Israel said on Thursday that it had set no timetable for withdrawing its forces from Lebanon, Gaza or Syria, as Israeli and Lebanese officials engaged in U.S. broker talks in Washington. However, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said his country would not pull troops out. The latest 3-day round of talks is due to wrap up tonight. Commenting on the negotiations, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said the two neighbors, Israel and Lebanon, were close to making a so-called commitment of intent. Time now to watch a report about our main topic for tonight, the just Palestinian cause, and especially the situation in Gaza. We'll also be talking West Bank and nationally the U.S.-Israel-Iran situation with Dr. Asmaa Zieny, the Senior Fellow at the Global Peace Institute in the UK. Dr. Asmaa, ladies and gentlemen, let's watch the report. When we come back, we'll start our Q&A session.
Gaza continues with devastating humanitarian consequences. Egypt remains one of the most active regional actors working to secure a ceasefire and prevent further escalation. Through sustained diplomatic engagement and humanitarian support, Cairo has positioned itself at the center of efforts aimed at restoring stability and creating conditions for renewed political dialogue. Since the outbreak of the crisis, Egypt has maintained continuous contacts with regional and international stakeholders, emphasizing the urgent need to hold hostilities and protect civilian lives. Egyptian diplomacy has focused on bridging differences between the parties involved while seeking practical mechanisms to reduce tensions on the ground. At the humanitarian level, Egypt has played a crucial role in facilitating the delivery of aid to Gaza. Medical supplies, food assistance, fuel and emergency relief have continued to reach the Palestinian population through Egyptian coordination efforts, reflecting Cairo's commitment to alleviating the suffering of civilians affected by the conflict. Among the most visible manifestations of this commitment is the ZLS initiative, which has mobilized significant humanitarian support for Gaza. The initiative symbolizes Egypt's determination to stand by the Palestinian people during a period of unprecedented hardship and humanitarian need. Egypt's strategic importance stems not only from geography but also from its long-standing role as a trusted mediator in Palestinian affairs. Over the year, Cairo has maintained channels of communication with various Palestinian factions as well as regional and international actors, providing it with diplomatic leverage that few countries possess. The Egyptian government has repeatedly stressed that a ceasefire is not merely a humanitarian necessity but also a critical step toward preventing a wider regional confrontation. Officials warn that continued violence threatens the security and stability of the entire Middle East, making diplomacy more urgent than ever. At the political level, Egypt continues to advocate for a comprehensive approach that addresses the root causes of the conflict rather than focusing solely on temporary arrangements. Egyptian leaders argue that sustainable peace requires a credible political process capable of delivering long-term security and stability for all parties. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has consistently emphasized that peace in the Middle East cannot be achieved without resolving the Palestinian issue. He has repeatedly called for the implementation of a just and comprehensive settlement based on international legitimacy and the establishment of an independent Palestinian state. Despite the complexity of the negotiations, Egypt continues to engage with international partners in search of common ground. Diplomatic efforts involve intensive consultations with regional powers, global stakeholders, and Palestinian representatives in an attempt to revive prospects for dialogue and de-escalation. However, significant challenges remain. Deep political divisions among Palestinian factions continue to complicate efforts aimed at creating a unified negotiating position. Many observers believe that internal Palestinian reconciliation remains an important component of any future political breakthrough. At a time when international attention is increasingly divided among multiple global crises, Egypt continues to keep the Gaza issue at the forefront of diplomatic discussions. Cairo's efforts seek not only to address the immediate humanitarian emergency, but also to preserve the possibility of a broader peace process in the future. As negotiations continue behind the scenes, the central question remains whether current diplomatic initiatives can translate into a lasting ceasefire and meaningful political progress. For now, Egypt remains a key pillar of regional mediation, carrying the responsibility of keeping hope for peace alive amid one of the most challenging conflicts facing the region today.
Hania Muhammad, for this report. Welcome back. And we are here with Dr. Asmaa Zieny, the Senior Fellow at the Global Peace Institute in the UK. Dr. Asmaa, so Egypt playing such a big role in supporting the just Palestinian cause, and for decades Egypt has been saying that the only way to peace, security and stability in the region is the just solution to the Palestinian cause, and a two-state solution, independent and viable Palestinian state, borders of 67, East Jerusalem, Al-Quds as its capital. I want to talk about the latest, indeed, move by Egypt, which is the presidential statement that came right on the day of the announcement of the deal between Iran and the US to talk for 60 days and try to reach a comprehensive deal. So Egypt is always keeping the just Palestinian cause at the top of the agenda.
Just when the world caught breath after the very hard reached peace deal between US, Israel and Iran for the ceasefire, the Palestinian case came to the Egyptian conscience and at the heart of all issues, because Egypt believes firmly that the stability in Palestine is the core for the stability in the whole Middle East. No settlement, no stability in the Middle East could be achieved leaving the just Palestinian cause, reaching to the diplomatic solution, reaching to the solution of the two states, and also to the borders of the East Jerusalem, to the borders of 1967. Because what happened, what erupted on October 7 and the following war was not something not expected, but it is like rooted in the unjust treatment and the policy of settlements and settlers trying to change the demographic nature of Gaza especially, and in all Palestine. And what is important in the Egyptian announcement just the following night of the peace deal between America and Iran, that we confirmed that we are not just reaching to the settlement or the ceasefire, we are managing this stage, because Egypt firmly believes that reaching to a ceasefire or a peace settlement is not the thing. It is how to deal after that. So that why Egypt is pushing towards adopting the policy, the plan suggested by American President for managing the situation in Gaza.
Yes, and it's good that you reminded us, Dr. Asmaa, that history did not start on October 7, 2023, because sometimes the Israelis or those who support the Israeli point of view try to trick the world and deceive the world into believing that history began on October 7, 2023 and forget about the prior 100 plus years where the oppression against the land grabbing and the killing of Palestinian women and children continued unabated for 100 years or so. So now there are, how do you think the situation, the US, Israel-Iran situation will affect the Gaza situation?
Heavily. It affects the situation heavily, and evidence that during the 2 months and almost 3 months war, no one had a chance to look at Gaza or consider what is going with the plan, what is happening with the settlers. The whole world, the world community was concerned mainly with the escalation of the situation between US, Israel and Iran, and this is priority because it doesn't affect only the Arab region or the Arab countries, it affects the whole world actually. That's why there was no chance for anyone, for the news press, to experts, analysts, whatever, to look at the Palestinian case. Actually, what was so important at that time was the humanitarian, that we make sure that the humanitarian aid reaching the Palestinian people in Gaza.
Yeah, and Egypt has done a great effort in that regard, but the Israeli obstacles always prevent the needed assistance to reach the Palestinians, and Dr. Asmaa, Israel exploited the 3 months plus, the 100 days plus war in the region by killing more Palestinians, by preventing aid from entering into Gaza, and by grabbing more land, almost 70% now from 50%. And again, the presidential statement that came out on the day of the U.S.-Iran MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, talked about that.
We just caught the chance because the situation is deteriorating inside Gaza and even in the West Bank. And what is important about the Egyptian announcement, that it doesn't only speak about Gaza, because everyone is trying to confine the whole case of Palestine to Gaza. The West Bank is there and Jerusalem is there, because what is happening there affects the future of achieving the real ceasefire in Gaza.
The real solution and the two-state solution, the just Palestinian cause. Dr. Asmaa, ladies and gentlemen, will break now for Adhan al-Isha, the call for al-Isha prayer. When we come back, we'll continue.